Hola, y'all already know what it is. Your boy Yaakov, what it do? The outlet to reality, the holders podcast in Vegas and Chicago. What up? This is the place where you want to hide from your drama, or maybe hide from your baby mama. Just kidding. But anyways, fans, thank you for staying tuned. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Ching. Y'all know where to find me. I'm on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, the outlet to reality. And anyways, guys, I have a real quick for those who don't know, I just published my first book. It's called Shabbat in Chicago. It just came out on Amazon. I'm so excited about a mother, a single mom who basically adopted 5 kids while embracing her Latino culture while being Jewish. So please check it out. And today we have a very special guest, the one and only who I consider my friend. Give it up for Dr. Kevin.
Oh my God.
I did.
I got a spelkus myself.
Yeah. But I do want to say, Dr. Kevin, it's an honor to have you here. And I do want to tell my fans a little bit on how we met. So basically, I had a bad car accident. This happened around June 20th. I had a bad accident on my back. So I was driving on my way to rehearsal and I got hit real bad. And Rebecca, who was the director of the play, she actually referred me to you. He's a great guy. He's gonna make you feel better. And he has like this magic way of helping others or curing. So I go there and I said, "Hey, Dr. Kevin, I gotta see you. I my back is hurting a lot, and but I get out too late." You're like, "Don't worry, I'll wait." And so usually you're out of the office by 12 or 1 or 2, but I got there pretty late, like about 6:30, and you were so nice enough to wait. And so when I got there, I didn't know you were the doctor. I came in and I was like, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" So I acted like he's a nice guy. I guess I'm gonna sit down, wait for the doctor. What I'm saying? I didn't know you were the doctor, so I'm just hanging out and signing out the paperwork because you're like, "All right, just sign here, so we know your history. Everything's good." Okay, and we'll be right shortly with you. That's why I didn't think you were the doctor. So I'm filling out the bubble and everything, and I find out it's you, which was a big shock. And the way you were just a people's person, that was amazing. And you did my first X-ray, and you broke it down. It was amazing how one disc you could tell that I used to do martial arts. You're like, something tells me that from what I'm looking at over here, that you did a lot of falling down. Not like on a stairs, but you did a lot of falling. So I'm thinking maybe jujitsu, wrestling, or some sort of martial arts. And I was like, man, you're right. And you were like, yeah, if you see the square, that's what you want, like a square shape. If it's too like that, it's not good. He's like, you're gonna be sore for a couple months, maybe 2 or 3. I will stay away from sit-ups because it's the lower back, and you know, do something like swimming for low impact. And it was the best advice. Honestly, I recovered faster than I thought, and I want to thank you for being able to help me out.
It was really my pleasure, honestly. The thing about what you just said, I really appreciate what you said. The thing is, at heart, most everything that works well is pretty simple if you get down to the ground basis of it. Now, as far as how I got into this initially, my family were all medical people. Most of them were surgeons. My mom was an RN. They were used to dealing with things in a hospital setting, and they were used to dealing with people that were in catastrophic situations. They'd broken bones or this sort of thing. Less than that, there are a few things that can be done. Physical therapy works with the condition of the stuff that connects one bone to another, like the muscles and the ligaments and the tendons. But what happens when someone gets injured like you got injured is you overwhelm the integrity of the structures that are holding things together. I don't mean to make this too heady because I'm not going to send you a bill for this. But the thing is, the way your bones are shaped, they only work in a certain direction. The ligaments are really tough stuff. For instance, when you eat a turkey leg at Thanksgiving, those really tough whitish pieces that you got, you can floss an elephant with them, but they don't stretch at all. Those are the things that hold the bones in close proximity one to the other so they don't dislocate. And then the tendons are the things that attach the muscles onto the bones. And those are the things that make things move. When you contract the muscles, it pulls on the tendon, and then magic happens and the world's a better place. What happens is when you got injured, like you got injured, you didn't damage anything, but you did stretch that stuff that I was talking about with the ligaments and the tendons. Then at that point, the joint gets really sloppy. It moves more than it's supposed to. It's kind of like if you've got a bad suspension in your car, it keeps bouncing after you hit something. It's easy to fix that because all you need to do is find out what direction things have gone in, and that's what the x-ray did for you. Now, if things are screwy, if you've sprained stuff, which is the injury I'm describing to you, what happens is the bones are not completely dislocated, which means if you dislocate your shoulder winds up around here someplace, and that's a pretty bad situation. That will screw up your afternoon. But if you just sprain it a little bit, if you sprain your rotator cuff, the thing's kind of like this. At that point, the muscles in the back are trying to pull things back, but the muscles in the front are trying to protect things, so they go into a spasm. So you wind up with kind of an impasse. So it's like they're playing tug of war. So you get stuck like this. At that point, if you can figure out what direction things are moved out from, and you can move it with a little bit of encouragement back where it's supposed to be, then the muscles that have been trying to protect everything relax almost immediately. The other thing that happens is in the joint. Is this too heady or is this okay?
No, this is great. Please share
Okay.
it. Please.
Okay. Because if nothing else, it's a cure for insomnia. But what happens is after I work on somebody, after about 24 hours, whatever inflammation was in there, when your body's trying to heal the area, it brings more blood into the area and that causes inflammation. Once you get things working the way they're supposed to, the inflammation that's a big part of the discomfort that you have, that dissipates. And one thing that I've really found out after I've been in this, and I've been doing this for about 40 years at this point, once you fix somebody, if something was screwed up in the first point, it's going to feel terrible. And you're going to notice you can't move in certain directions. You can't lift your arm behind, further than this, or you can't turn your head to the left, or whatever it is. If something screws up again, if you need to get it adjusted, if you need to get treated by your chiropractor again, you're going to know it because the same things that cued you in, which is muscle spasms and pain and inflammation, those things will return. Now, I haven't got any kids in college, so I don't need to jive people into having you come in 3 times a week until your bank account collapses. It's not necessary. If you fix something and then you leave it alone, then you're only doing what's appropriate. And then people send you tons of patients because you're not screwing them over. It's a fairly decent, it's a straightforward process. It's basically practicing the golden rule. I've been in situations where I've needed to have some care, and just because I need to get a tooth filled, I don't want the dentist to try to sell me on a full set of dentures. It's overkill. You just get what you need, and then you go on with your life until you need to get fixed again. It's really, really simple. Wow. So that's it in a nutshell. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, that's amazing. I appreciate it. It's always good to learn more and hear the more like the technical terms for the back and for the muscles and the ligament. I do want to ask you something. So I know also you are involved in music. Tell us a little bit about what got you into, performing? I remember there's a story you shared about Chicago. If you can share that too, I thought it was amazing.
Oh man. Oh yeah. Okay. Originally, when I got into music, I was born in 1950, so around 1965 or so. Ask your grandfather. But around that period, there were a lot of British bands that were sending stuff over prior to the Beatles. There were all of these other guys like the Rolling Stones and the Yardbirds, the guys who developed into Led Zeppelin. They started, strangely enough, they started selling American music back to us because, let's face it, all of the people I hung out with when I was growing up in New Hampshire, it was the most aggressively Caucasian place in the universe. It's just too uncomfortably cold. So the stuff that I heard as music was definitely intended for a white audience, So it was stuff like Pat Boone and, Patsy Cline and all this other stuff, perfectly fine music, but it didn't get down to the root of what really motivated people. I found out through these British bands that there was stuff that was native to the United States that had come from places, primarily your fair city, Chicago, where people carried on from the tradition after World War II, where they started putting together jump blues bands. Prior to World War II, they had these big orchestras, everybody's dancing, doing the jitterbug and all this. After World War II, nobody could afford to pay big bands, so they put together like 4 or 5 member combos. When that got to Chicago, what happened is the people that had been playing acoustic music down south migrated up to Chicago because that's where the work was. They were working in steel mills and, meat packing plants and stuff. And they were crowding these small clubs, and they couldn't be heard as well playing acoustic guitar and this sort of thing and singing without amplification. So what knocked me out is they started bringing in amplified stuff, like amplified basses and guitars. But the main thing that was a kicker is, instead of having a full brass section, which is going to require 3 or 4 horns, they would get one guy who was playing harmonica, but he was amplifying it. Okay, so far?
That's perfect. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so what happened is, when they did this, if you look, I don't know if you've ever had this much spare time on your hands, but if you pull a harmonica apart, it basically looks like a pocket version of an accordion. It's got a reed in it, kind of like a saxophone has got a reed. The thing vibrates when you blow through it. But when you amplify it, what it does is it gives it an edge. In addition to making it loud, it's sort of like the difference between playing acoustic guitar, playing Bob Dylan or this sort of thing, and playing stuff like Muddy Waters or Hendrix or Stevie Ray Vaughan or Clapton, all these other guys that are acknowledged artists as far as amplified stuff. But as far as amplified harmonica, I picked it up because all my friends were getting real popular because they were in bands. I can't play guitar to save my life. I'm an okay singer, but I was looking for an instrument, and nobody was playing harmonica at that point. It really isn't all that difficult. I'll show you.
Yeah, please.
Turn your radio down at home, ladies and gentlemen. The way it's set up is, it's really cool. If you pull in on it, if you breathe into it, you get this chord. Okay, like on a do mi sol on a piano, same thing. If you blow into it, you get another chord. And if you pull into it, but you move a little bit further to the right, not like my politics, but if you pull in, you get another chord. So you can go. Pretty rudimentary. But the cool thing that somebody in Chicago discovered is that if you change the position of your mouth, you can hit these blue notes. For instance, I'll show you. If you pull in on one note, it sounds like this. If you bend the note, you go like this, just by changing the position of your tongue and your mouth. Which sounds like a cat thrown into a blender. But if you play a song, what it does is it gives you those blue notes that kind of are in between the notes. Like if you look at Linus's piano in Peanuts, he's got the black notes painted on, but he's just got 8 notes on that thing. This, with the ability to bend those notes, gives you the ability to play quite a bit differently. So you can go. It's the same toy instrument that it was a moment ago, but you can play the same part of a song that a horn section would play for accents. And as long as you don't do the cardinal sin that most harmonica players get thrown out of bands for, which is never knowing when to shut the hell up and let somebody else be heard, then it works out really well. Okay so far?
Yep. Oh, that was so
okay.
Cool.
Now, let me show you how this works. Get a hold of a vocal mic. Not this moment, but, a cheap vocal mic, attention Kmart shoppers, okay? Not the greatest fidelity in the world, but if you play through that, it sounds a little bit different. For instance, the weird thing about this, can you hear the difference between the two?
Yeah, the last one with the mic, it feels like I'm in the concert. Like it's so cool. It gives you that like live. I felt like live music.
It sounds enthusiastic, which is really nifty. Now, the weird thing is, I'm glad that it sounded okay to you. The thing about this, if you're playing guitar or if you're playing an instrument like piano, you can look at your fingers. And most people do. They look like they're really into it, but basically they're cheating. They're just looking down so they can figure out where the heck they are. With this, unless you've got eyes in your tongue, you're not going to be able to figure out what's going on. It's got to be all by touch, wherever your lips are. And if you can figure out relatively where you are, there's only 10 holes, but it's easy to lose your place. When I started playing amplified, which is what I was just doing, there was no guidance for that. Nobody ever approached it as a different instrument. Now, that's as crazy as thinking that Jimi Hendrix is going to grab a folk guitar and it's going to sound like, Purple Haze. Doesn't work that way. Okay. So what I did, and this is not a plug because this is out of print, I did this. This is my book that I wrote back in 1991. It's called Amplified Harmonica Playing Made Possible. And it was just me going through all of the procedures that I'd gone through in order to teach myself how to get a cheap-ass microphone that would sound really good, how to get a little amplifier that would distort things just enough. And nobody had ever done it before. And then within a couple of years, I started printing a newsletter and I got to do a lot of lectures, teach courses and do recordings and stuff, just because nobody had done it before. And now there's dozens of different sources. If you go on YouTube and you click on amplified harmonica, there's more than you want to know, But at the time, it was kind of a breakthrough. So that was very nifty. And I feel like in some small way, I started people paying attention to an aspect of an instrument that they hadn't done before. Now I'm going to stop and breathe. So did you have another question on all of that?
It was mind-blowing. Like I got to hear, like you said, like 3 different sounds. And the blues does make it sound better. Like when you played it, like went like this in a way, like it does change the sound. When you play the regular, it sound like a regular harmonica, but it was
Yeah, I
just
saw like somebody in a prison, in a Western, sitting there, hey, Levi, play us a tune, which is okay, but, there's no jive to it. It doesn't
right.
have that feel to it.
Yeah.
And you being from Chicago, I could get a blood sample from you. And if I got that, I'd be able to play the blues better.
Right.
It's something about that territory.
That's so cool. There's a famous book I read from called Seven Guitar, and he talks about the blues
Mm-hmm.
coming to Pittsburgh as well. Very, I love the book, and it's a playbook, so they actually made it bunch of actors to act it out for a whole
Yeah.
production, and they actually performed it in Chicago. I don't know if it was the first time, but my school, they paid for the whole trip. So they're like, look, bring one
Wow.
family member to come to this show, Seven Guitar, and watch this dialogue and dancing of only blues music, and it was live music. So we
Yeah.
got to see this girl with this red dress. She looked beautiful. Falls in love with a neighbor, and the neighbor is what I think like hooks her attention is the music, the blues, and then they have their first dance together, which is so cool because the footwork and the turns exactly the same turns from, and I teach dance, Latin dance like cumbia,
Do you?
yeah, yeah. So I teach,
No kidding. How
yeah.
many
So
hats you fit on that head of yours, man?
sometimes I gotta gotta hide it because it keeps falling. but it's so cool because there's a specific dance that came from yeah and called cumbia, which
Oh yeah.
you hear it right? Is that
Yeah.
so it has that rhythm, and I know how to teach the dance. So when I saw them dancing, doing the footwork, it was the same exact footwork. And the thing is, uh, cumbia goes way like it's an ancient dance
Oh yeah.
from the indigenous. So it's a very interesting how like two three different worlds. The United States, Colombia, even Mexico has their own different stepping. How they, in the end of the day, it shows that we're all connected somehow.
Oh man. You said a lot right there. Then talk to the Argentines, and they look like snakes in mating season when they're doing the tango. Good grief, man. But music is powerful. One thing that's wonderful, especially if you're dancing to music, it makes you part of the whole ensemble. It gets you involved physically in what's going on. Now, as far as being on stage and playing, if people are dancing, it's not just that they're giving you a pat on the back that you think that you're doing okay, which is true. It's wonderful to have people respond to what you're doing. But if you've ever, when you were in high school, if you were ever in chorus or something like this, you've got maybe, let's say 4 or 5 people, but if you hit that harmony just right, it's like the vocal version of an orchestra. The production, what you produce is much greater than the sum of its parts. And that's what happens when you have a musical ensemble and it all clicks. The latest thing that I'm trying to do, I've got a Mexican gentleman who plays drums, and this guy plays cumbia. He plays all, salsa, rumba, salsa. Well, I'm repeating myself, but a number of divergent rhythms, and it gives a much different emphasis to the music. Well, like what happened with Carlos Santana. He went to Woodstock. Nobody knew who the heck he was. He drops a bunch of acid and he gets up there and plays at full volume. And all of a sudden, everybody understands that Latin music is powerful medicine. It's real, real strong. And he would improvise and go off on a tangent and then bring it all back again. That's not a 2 or 3 minute song on a jukebox. That's taking you out to outer space. And I suspect maybe now that he's playing, he's got a residency in Las Vegas, it's different. But when he started out, he would go off into outer space on improvisation and pull it back again, and never the same performance twice. A horn player that I really like, a guy who played alto sax named Charlie Parker. You're probably familiar with him. I had a CD by this guy. It only had 4 songs on it, but each one of the 4 songs, he did 4 different takes. And this guy was playing 128th notes, constantly for like 4 or 5 or 6 minutes of improvisation. Then they da 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 da. The next cut is the same thing, does a completely different solo just off the top of his head. And I've played with musicians who can do this depending on their mood, as long as you have a framework and you can bring it back to the point where everybody ends at the same point. You can do all of these flights of fancy. And that's part of the magic of playing live music and improvising. You never know where you're going to go, but as long as you have a basic premise, some skeleton holding things together, then you wind up landing on your feet. Like when you're dancing, you don't know what the heck you're going to do. It depends on the mood, the music, your partner, what you had for lunch, all kinds of different factors come into it. But the result, if you're in tune with what's going on with the whole atmosphere that's there, is beautiful. It's one of the best parts of being alive, is to be able to create stuff like that. And I don't think you necessarily have to be an artist to create. You're being artistic with conversation with people. You're being artistic when you sum up a situation and do something different because you think it's appropriate. I know I'm going off into outer space with this, but that series of happy accidents that happen when you play music or when you dance, that's part of the joy of being alive. If everything is so predictable, then there's no magic to it. You're not really alive, you're just kind of existing. So if people can take a risk and get into a situation where creatively you're over your head and see where it takes you, man, that's wonderful. That's alchemy.
Mm.
And I'm going to shut up and let you talk for a bit.
Well, you made me think of something. So this happened last weekend, and I basically had like a little family get together in Chicago, and one of my friends, her name is Gabby, and we're all talking. I'm like, I need to get people moving. No one's really dancing. So
Yeah.
I grab her. They're playing, I think it was bachata, and she tells me, oh no, merengue. And she goes, you already know. Like it's very upbeat. It's like really moving. So
Man, that stuff will get a corpse to dance. It's wonderful.
Right. So I tell her, hey, let's dance. And she goes, I don't know how to dance this. I said, I don't believe you because I'm the one that taught you. You know what I'm saying? She was trying to hide, but she can't hide that far. So we were dancing, she was smiling, and it was just a nice moment to like break the ice and just to like you said, live the moment. And
oh yeah.
After that, she was like, you know what, you should teach your friends how to dance bachata. I said, oh, this is a different dance. I said, okay. And so I'm showing my friends that never danced in their life. They're trying, and I said, look, I'm going to show with the basics. So 1, 2, 3, pop. And I'm showing them. And so they finally got it with a few times. So then I asked Gabby, I need you for a second. You're my assistant for today, my partner, my dance partner. So she comes up.
That's the one who said she couldn't dance.
Right. So I told her. Okay. So I told her, I said, look, I'm gonna I'm gonna turn you, like we're gonna dance, but I want to show these guys how bachata is different. So in bachata, there's a move I do where I let go of her. She spins by herself, does kind of like a 360. She spins by herself. She's all the way by the wall, but then she comes back, spinning back. And I said in the body language, it's like you're telling her, babe, I don't I don't really want you anymore, okay? So I'm gonna let you go. You see?
Oh,
You
the
can
drama of
yeah, the
life
drama of
expressed in dance.
yeah. You're
Okay.
like, babe, I can't handle this no more. I gotta let you go. So you let her go.
Uh,
And
yeah.
then she comes back, she's like, I miss you. And then you're like, I miss you too. So it's
Oh,
like a push and pull, like a love like a love relationship. And I said that's why I like bachata because it has a lot of body language and
yeah.
it's very intimate and there's a lot of close up. And so it was just a beautiful thing to do. I love that. I just had to share that. But like Zoom was
Well,
about to kick me out, but let me just wrap it up real quick.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh so, guys, this is the Outlet to Reality, the holders podcast in Vegas and Chicago every Tuesday. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Ching, ching. Y'all know where to
Spend
find me. I'm
money.
on right. y'all know y'all know where to find me. I'm on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify. The Outlet to Reality. My Snapchat is Take One Pass It, and my TikTok is at Yaakov28. And by the way, don't forget to check out my book called Shabbat in Chicago. It's out on Amazon. Please check it out. It's going to change your life about a single mom who adopted 5 kids while embracing her Latino culture while being Jewish. And Dr. Kevin, where can my fans find you?
If they want to ask me any questions about what I said, I don't have a website or anything like this. I'll just give my email. My first name is Kevin. My last name is Haggerty, spelled like just the way it sounds. So my email is my first initial and my last name. It's KHAGERTY at cox.net. I'd love to talk about this stuff. Obviously, I never know when to shut up. I'll go on at great length about this. I didn't tell you about the 4 books I'm writing. So next time.
Okay, okay. And then where can my fans, if they need a chiropractor, where can they find you? What's the name of your place? And the address. So if they need to, see somebody, we
Okay,
can.
if they're within the catchment area of Las Vegas, the joint's called Pragmatic Chiropractic because I couldn't put no BS. It wouldn't, it's basically the same thing. Pragmatic Chiropractic. I'm at 138 South Rainbow Boulevard, Las Vegas, 89145. If they want to get in touch with the office, secretary's name is Veronica. The woman walks on water because she can put up with my nonsense. She's at 702 386 0301. Thank you for asking. I'm more than happy to take care of people, but let's face it, people are beautiful. There's a few schmucks, but you know, just eat around the bad spots. Life is wonderful, and you're making people happy. So thank you for what you did, and thank you for including me in your world.
Of course, of course.